Ladies, young ladies, and gentlemen, good evening to all. Once again, welcome. You are on the Tribune for Awakening Consciences. So, this is the headline of international news. It's messed up in Kursk. The weather is messed up in Kursk. Asa. We now easily understand the reason why President Donald Trump decided to pick up his phone, call Vladimir Putin, beg him, ask him for forgiveness, to spare lives in Kursk. We understand. We easily understand. The news just came in. About 30 high-ranking officials of the NATO army are surrounded in Kursk. That is to say, among those who are surrounded in Kursk, we have NATO officers. And these NATO officers, they were there with the Ukrainian troops. And you know, we have always said here that in Kursk, it was Ukraine, as much. I even created the expression, Ukraine, as much. Many did not believe. Many did not believe. Ukraine denied it. But those officers who are there in Kursk, the work for which they were there, you won't believe. You won't believe at all. And the situation we are facing, I don't think it will simply be limited to not sparing lives. To spare lives, I was going to say. No. What might happen? With this race situation, it might become very, very serious because NATO has just violated. That is to say, Russia has just obtained material proof that NATO has violated its territory. NATO has attacked Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the situation we will discuss in this video conference. But first, I ask you to share it as much as possible. Share this video conference in all possible groups. Don't forget to subscribe to this page, The Samurai. This allows you to no longer miss our news, the hottest and most burning news of the moment. So, according to official information, about 30 officers from NATO countries are reportedly surrounded in the Kursk region. This was stated to Sputnik by Sergei Lebedev, coordinator of the pro-Russian clandestine network in Nikolaev. According to the information from the resistance, there are about 30 NATO officers surrounded. They were in charge. Follow this part. Share this video with me. Share the video conference with me. They were in charge of commanding the troops on the ground. They were the commanders of the troops on the ground, these NATO officers. In addition to that, they were responsible for receiving intelligence data from satellites. Since they are the ones with the proper training, they were tasked with receiving this satellite data and the data from NATO satellites. Imagine, these are the data from NATO satellites. They were responsible for receiving this data and adjusting deep strikes on Russian territory. Here is the information. Maranatha. You then understand the reason why President Vladimir Putin has given an ultimatum until tomorrow, 8 a.m. Tomorrow, Monday, March 17, 2025. He just says at 8 a.m., if they do not surrender, it will be a massacre. It's going to be apocalyptic for them. And Russia already has all its reasons. Russia already has all its reasons. Since NATO officers are present on this soil. The other question we will ask is, will it be limited to just those who are there on Russian soil? Will Russia not consider retaliatory measures directly against NATO? Ladies and gentlemen, are we witnessing an unprecedented escalation? The Russo-Ukrainian conflict, in which we have always seen NATO and the Westerners claim they are not on the ground, that they are not participating. Regarding this conflict, Russia has been very clear. Russia has said that any country that would directly participate in the conflict would be considered as a party to the conflict. Russia, in saying this, even went so far as to modify its nuclear doctrine, its military nuclear doctrine. The Russian Duma approved it. The president, Vladimir Putin, approved it. But all this time, Russia had no proof. Until they entered Russian territory. And finally, they are surrounded. And that's when we discover that there are more than 30. And by the way, the number 30, we are told that it's small, that the complete list would exceed that. This means, in a way, it's NATO that has invaded Russia. It's NATO that has thus invaded Russia. And we see why Emmanuel Macron is very agitated. We have seen Emmanuel Macron very agitated. Very agitated. When we hear that he is going to send soldiers to the front on the battlefield, we understand now. Emmanuel Macron said that they must create a force to go monitor the ceasefire agreement. His real concern is how to free those NATO officers in the Kursk region. So, NATO is trapped. NATO is trapped in Kursk. And, according to other sources, this figure is largely underestimated. And in the phrase NATO countries' officers, such as their number and details about their affiliation, remain largely unclear. The number of advisors, instructors, and mercenaries in the cauldron of the Kursk region is much higher. The complete list was transmitted by the American side and is at the disposal of the Russians. So, Russia already knows the number of people who are there. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the headline news. We will continue to follow it, and everything that will result from it, we will come back to discuss it here on the Tribune of Consciousness Watch. Thank you all. I will be back shortly with more news. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.